Welcome to the show. Today, we're going to be talking about some fun. Well, if you're stuck, it's not so fun, but we're going to make it fun, and your life's going to be a lot more fun and enjoyable because we're going to be talking about food and related to trauma and using a cool little model called internal family systems. And I got a fantastic guest on the show. His name's Jared Levinson. He's a former binge eater who wrestled. He turned a Zen Buddhist monk. He's a counselor that utilizes internal family systems, and he also does nutritional wellness coaching. He's helped hundreds of people through universal meal principles and internal family systems to make peace with food, stop binge eating, and find true health and wholeness. Welcome to the show. Hey, Jared, how you doing?
Hey, Justin.
And I might also add that Jared and I, it was met in 2014, which is now 9 years ago. We did yoga teacher training together. We did a 200-hour yoga teacher training. That was my first one. I think it was probably yours too, Jared.
Yeah, it was. I just gotten off my 13 months living as a Zen monk, and my transformation during that time had been pretty profound, but not complete. But I really knew the importance of a spiritual community and was so into mindfulness. I still am into mindfulness. I don't practice it as rigidly or as much as I did before. So yeah, then it was getting certified in yoga and meeting freaking Justin. And here we are today in Pacifica, like 8 years later, reconnecting. And
yeah, we live like 4 miles apart. Yeah. And it took a mutual friend who lives back where we did our yoga teacher training together to go, you two guys actually like live right next to each other. And it's like, oh, we do. And the next day we got together.
Thanks, Genevieve.
Yeah. Because I know she's a big listener of the show. And thanks to everyone who also listens besides Genevieve. Do appreciate it. So you were the Zen Buddhist monk prior to doing the yoga teacher training. It was at that point, were there things with like food that were challenging for you already? And like, was that part of your path to like, how do I figure this shit out? Like,
I think it was an entry point for sure. Just felt really bad about myself. Later on, I would learn that was shame, but I didn't have any words for it at that time. Felt really bad. I just knew something was wrong. I knew food was wrong. So I remember going to Tassajara, a Zen monastery in the coast of California. And I remember days we'd have every 5th day off. So you'd work 4 days. There was this schedule, mindful. And the 5th day I'd binge and I just food coma the whole day. So yeah, the mindfulness training, the schedule there really helped me. But actually, when I started teacher training with you, I would still say I was struggling. Less so with out of control eating episodes where you just eat like crazy. I would more that had subsided a lot during the time at the monastery, but I think I didn't really know how to heal trauma or shame at that point in my journey. So it was all very helpful. And yeah, so that's kind of when I think I started, that's when I probably got into the yoga teacher training right about there and met up with you. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because so often we try to cure the symptom, and oftentimes like challenges with eating, challenges with any substance, it's a symptom of something else. And often we just like, well, let me just work on the symptom, but for you, it sounds like you definitely got to a root of there was some definite trauma. And it's because a lot of times when we kind of have that, like, no, this behavior is serving a purpose. That can definitely help with like the shame, right? Like, when it's like, you're not a bad person because you binged eat. It's like, that's just, you're trying to not hurt and not have an awful time. And I think sometimes because I still sometimes have trouble, like,
100%.
Like my mom passed away this past year, and it's like I've had lots of progress in how I eat and nutritional information and things like that, yet it was like, oh my gosh, I live across the street from the Domino's Pizza, and I was starting to hit that thing up, every other day. And there's a little bit of like, hey, this is a rough time, and this is how and to just not add that extra shit on top of it, which I know I've done, and I know a lot of people is like, not only am I having the pain that's happening right now, but I'm also adding the pain that I'm not good because of how I'm dealing with it. And it's just that for me recently has been like, okay, I don't have to add more problems on the problems I already have.
Yeah, totally hear you. Yeah, I know. We get it. We tie ourselves in knots. There's, we can just grind our fists and teeth together and fight ourselves, the comfort the pain, but also beating yourself up about comforting yourself for the pain. And can really be a huge effing, wait, I can swear.
Yeah. If you want, it's your
we don't
choice.
have to. Yeah.
Yeah. You can
be
say whatever the fudge you want.
A real effing
no ducking
mess.
problem here. We can just talk like, we're having autocorrect on the phone.
We'll go with the flow, right? And yeah, but that pain is so raw, and it can just bring up so many different parts. I didn't have any language of parts, but that's where I do feel internal family systems, understanding the system of parts, understanding.
Yeah, and before we get into that, I am a little curious about your story. Did wrestling play a little part in your relationship to food, or that sort of being how, I don't know, maybe your relationship to your trauma or manifested itself? Because I know, at least my experience when I was in high school, I knew the rest is like, oh, they have to make weight, and so it's okay going into the weigh-in or whatever. It's very strict, and then I would imagine after you weigh in or whatever, then it's like, all right, let's go balls out and just have whatever. And I can imagine that it can, probably in some ways there's like, okay, I can have some control over what I put in my body and all these things, but then I'm sure that can lead to some shadowy stuff of like, okay, I have this power and that can manifest in the not healthiest way. I'm just curious how that worked in with your story.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing those questions up. Yeah. And earlier we mentioned that food was the surface layer problem. So I do think there are these shadows underneath, which kind of are the real cause of drives these things. But yeah, I think we get into exploring our pain and shadows because of these surface layer behaviors. In high school, I remember eating grapes because I'm supposed to be losing weight, and that'll help me lose weight because I'm going to be weighed in public after practice, and like the tournament is tomorrow or something. And there is that real pressure to make weight. And other stories too of that come to mind where I remember like going to a tournament and spitting like a gallon of saliva on the floor, to lose that weight. You can lose a lot of weight by spitting. Of course, it's stupid,
because if you don't make weight, then you can't compete in the tournament. And does that mean like maybe like your team, you can't contribute to your team winning because it's like a points thing, is that right? That like it's individual, but you're also part of a team, right?
It's definitely, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's shame. There's shame around not making weight. The paradigm is, weight is willpower, and we're here to be tough. We're here to like dominate. We're here to fight. So if you're not that, then you're not tough. And the toughest can like, restrict, can handle the restriction, handle the deprivation, handle the, famine. Yeah. And so it's a sign of being tough. And
Yeah, which
Yeah.
in some
So
ways,
yeah,
like
if you
to
miss weight,
bring,
you're not tough. You're not, you're not cool. You're not whatever.
yeah, because it's a bit of a shame because like there's like a flip side of that can be, you know, really awesome of like, you know, a group of people that have a common goal and they're coming together and they're sort of, you know, supporting each other to get more than what anybody would be able to do individually. So there's some amazing
Yeah.
stuff, and
Yeah.
yet
Yeah.
it's
It's so
on
true.
how that gets communicated, and also from where somebody might be coming from of which messages they take in more. You know, because yeah, there can be the like, well, you're bad if you don't do this, you know. So if that's the what's accentuated, not the like, well, but hey, we're doing it because of all these great things, you know. uh yeah, so it's because
It's
yeah,
a
I had
really,
some, yeah,
it's a mixed bag. You're absolutely right. A lot of positives. Today I'm still in fitness, still in the weightlifting. Um, you know, I'm grateful that I did wrestling in some ways. You know, I do feel like I became tougher. You know,
yeah,
but there is, so it's a mixed bag, and I think that's really important that we see both sides, yin and yang, and you
yeah.
know,
And
yeah.
so it sounds like for you that the wrestling really did associate, yeah, eating and stuff with a lot more, you know, shame and kind of like unhealthiness and things like that is in some
Yes,
ways.
that was
Yeah.
the other part of your question. That, yeah, thank you for bringing that back up. Yeah, later on, I'd realize I'm still in therapy. I still see a therapist. I've been working on my childhood attachments for better part of a decade now, and I know, I the eating symptoms um, were were maybe not there for every wrestler, if you will. Not every wrestler maybe felt as much shame around food and weight cutting as I did. Trauma from childhood. Um, it, Wrestling was like the fuel, you know, the gasoline. It was the spark that kind of
Yeah.
spiraled, you know, like a wildfire. It gets bigger. You start obsessing, and then the more you obsess, like the
There
more
was already the fuel. The
there was
fuel
already the
was
fuel.
available.
The
It
fuel, yeah,
just,
yeah. The dry kindling was there, and you know, there were signs of this kindling. In retrospect, I see this now. Of course, in the moment, I don't know anything about my emotions. I don't know how to feel my body. I don't know really anything
yeah.
about, you know, I don't, you know.
Yeah, like what I think what I've learned, and for those, some of you listening might be like, oh yeah, I get this, and then others are like, I don't get. But to me, what I feel like, you know, any pains or emotions or any behaviors that aren't beneficial, it's like there are signal that hey, there's something we need to resolve and look at. But in the moment, it's just like, why does this hurt, or why do I keep doing this thing that doesn't help me and maybe even hurts other people? And it's just like, what the hell
So
is this?
confusing. It's so
Yeah,
confusing.
yeah.
It really is
And
confusing.
so so for you, so it sounds like is mostly like binge eating, like just way too much at times. What what was your path to starting to get out of that confusion, I guess, or that cycle?
Yeah, the
Um,
cycle. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Um, I mean, in a nutshell, it's skip I graduate college earlier. I skipped college graduation. At this point, I'm really into meditation. I then decide to live at Tassajara for 13 months. I'm literally seeking enlightenment. And nowadays I do see that as spiritual bypass. Like, hey, let me just get enlightened and try to forget all my problems. That explains sort of my mindset back then. It was very serious, very, I got to get enlightened. Like, done with this shit. Um, So yeah, so I'm there for a year and a half. I'm like, okay, this enlightenment thing, it maybe isn't happening the way I want it to. I cannot connect with others. I don't know my emotions. I fit in because I'm, I'm white, I'm smart, I'm decent with people, but I'm all alone. I'm all alone. I'm not, I don't know. I didn't make any friends over there. I'm not in contact with any of them because I didn't have any social ties. I couldn't connect.
Mm.
Uh, I remember my Zen teacher. I had a Zen teacher who I actually became a lay ordained Buddhist priest. I had this sew this bib,
Like for a
and
baby?
it looks like a bib. I guess they call it I guess they call it a robe, but no, I'm laughing because it looks like a bib for a baby. Yeah, and it takes like 30 hours to sew. So
An adult Buddhist monk wears it.
yeah. You wear these black robes, and and you have this like blue. I think mine's blue, and maybe it like gets
Okay.
gold or something if
So a
you
little
are
flare,
little
on the
flare.
black
Yeah,
robe. Okay.
yeah.
All right.
You got to sew it like mindfully. The whole thing's like
Yeah.
daily mindfulness, and um yeah. So he told me, hey man, you got the discipline, but there's something missing inside of you. um yeah, there's a bunch of
Ooh.
metaphors that I have for this: an astronaut floating in space, looking into the mirror and not seeing a reflection. This is the result of childhood trauma. My trauma was more of a neglect
Mhm.
nature. Trauma comes in all different forms, sizes, and shapes. I was not physically, sexually, or verbally abused, so I don't have as much of a
It's not an exciting
it's a
story. They're not going to make a great movie about it.
yeah, it's like that. Yeah, kind of, in a way. Yeah, I get exactly.
Yeah, it's just a movie.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah,
um, yeah, because
yeah.
and like in the movies, like they always like to show like a kid getting picked on and stuff, and like that ends up causing something to happen in the movie. But in my
Totally.
experience, even the worst um is just people not even knowing that you're even there. Like, who are
Mm,
you? Were
mm,
you you go to like the high school reunion and it's like, oh, we were in the class together, and
yeah,
or like, who are you? Like
yeah,
they just
yeah,
like you don't even matter.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's to be
yeah, yeah,
invisible
yeah,
in some ways is even
yeah.
uh
That's it.
more
That's it.
more painful. And I know, like, I used to be a
Confusing.
real big fan of Howard
Mm,
Stern. That's actually how I got into meditation, because he would
mm.
talk about it. And when I was miserable, I was like, well, maybe if it makes him less miserable, maybe it'll work for me. Um, but they used to send this guy, Stuttering John, to go like interview celebrities and like mess with them. And one of the things that would just the big question they would ask a celebrity to just like really get under their skin is just go up, to like Johnny Depp or Brad Pitt and go like, yeah, who are you? What are you famous for? Because it's just that like
I
you're
know.
on that you're a nobody. It can be just the most painful thing. And especially if
I
to
know. I
your
know.
family, like to be like a nobody to the people that are supposed to like care and give you everything. And it's like you can't know that while you're in it, but it's like later. I know for me it's like, oh yeah, that's really awful. I really would have liked
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
to go like,
and
what's wrong, are you okay? Like, oh.
totally. Yeah, we have. They can be so painful as a kid. We can have all these defense mechanisms that sort of naturally block it out. Food being one of them. Humor, another one.
Yep.
Right. um,
What are you saying? Are you saying I'm trying to hide something with my jokes here? Yes, absolutely.
Here I am chuckling along, right? Adding in no, yeah, there's truth, right? There's mixed bags. We're connecting, and it can be a valid defense mechanism, as well as I think
Mm-hmm.
with food as well, right? It can be such a valid defense mechanism that yeah, all of our
Yeah.
defense mechanisms are like this. Totally.
So you get the message at the Zen monastery that, hey, you're not here, and that leads you to looking back and like,
Yeah.
oh, what, yeah. Well, it's almost like
Yeah.
you you were left, and then you kind of left yourself in some ways, because in some ways I guess we like often do what we see around us. Like it's like, all right, I guess just I don't matter, so I guess I won't matter. I don't, or maybe you have a better. Maybe this is a good time to
No,
introduce the
this is good.
parts,
Sure. No, this I like.
internal family systems.
Sure, yeah,
'Cause I think we're starting to get to where there's not just you, there's other parts of you, and other parts of
yeah.
me, and other parts of everybody listening. And people might be going like, will this become the schizophrenic show? And it's like, yes and no. And I don't know, maybe I'll let you explain, since you're actually trained and probably actually know how to use some of this terminology better than I do. So yeah.
Well, I love it when a good conversation. I have so many different conversation threads that like I could go down.
Well, you can go
Let me
down on
summarize.
whatever you
I'll
want.
summarize briefly the journey with the Zen monastery, because I think that sets us up for IFS and the 3-step process that I kind of teach overeaters how to walk through to heal their trauma and stop binge eating. The first step being nutritional. At the monastery, I had a regular schedule of eating. I was eating enough food. I did gain weight in the monastery. That was very important for my journey. So I stabilized my eating. I was not caught in the binge diet restriction cycle as much. I was studying mindfulness. I was studying mindfulness, and this brings me to step 2. So step 1 is sort of the nutrition basics: eat enough food, eat protein, etc. Not too much nutrition. That's about it. Like, it's not that complicated. It's just that's step 1, nutrition. That's what I did at the monastery. I was also doing step 2, which I call mindfulness of triggers, and in IFS they call it a trailhead. Maybe Justin, I could just ask you to, like, the image that comes to mind with a trailhead. What comes up for you when you hear the word trailhead?
I guess I'm thinking of, like, this could be a sign that says, and maybe there's maybe there's 2 possible ways to go. One's, if you go this way, it's going to be a 4-mile, very steep, whatever, and maybe there's nothing to see there. Or the other is like, hey, this is an easy path, 1 mile, and there's a waterfall at the end. I don't know. It's a little bit. I come with like a trailhead, but just it's a
Yeah,
there's a way to go, and you could either go down it, not go down it, or maybe there's multiple things. Yeah, I don't.
totally. Yeah, definitely. And you had mentioned earlier too, I forget what you said, but something about the triggers. You said triggers. I think another word for a
Yeah,
trailhead can be a trigger, or sometimes the word trigger, it doesn't
trigger
quite have the
sometimes
right.
triggers me.
Yeah,
I'll be honest, lately.
yeah. There's a
Because it's been, I don't know, I seem to run into a lot of people that use it, and then sometimes I'm like, I'm glad you're aware of your behavior, but there's a little bit, it can be used in a disempowering way of just like, well, this happened, so then naturally I did this thing, and it's like that's your
yeah,
tendency.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 There's not the energy of trigger. We're talking about the same thing: the trailhead, the trigger. But the
Oh, and maybe
trailhead
we
is,
should be is yeah,
yeah. This is
define trigger for somebody that might
yeah,
not even
sure,
know, because not everybody talks to the
yeah.
same people you or I do, of like, yeah, maybe like a quick example that a trigger is, and then relate that to the trailhead terminology, which I think I might enjoy more.
Yeah, because it was really when I started therapy after the yoga training that I did with you that I really started not being ashamed of my triggers. I feel like this is a huge turning point. Like, when people can start turning towards their trigger, that's like step 2, is
Yeah.
turning towards their trigger, looking. This is difficult work, but so a trigger is could be anything, but it's those moments where you lose control, you feel so angry, so pissed off. A hallmark sign of a triggering moment was feeling tremendous shame or guilt afterwards that lasts for a while. um, yeah, I mean, I think we kind of all know what our triggers are.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
know, like,
yeah,
one for me that I still kind of work on would be, if somebody would be really late for an appointment, that would be like that would trigger me into an angry state, you know. Um, and so I might, depending, like, want to yell at the person or something like that. And it's, really, it's like, as I went to learn, it's like, oh, that brings up that I'm not feeling like I'm valued or important, and I don't like feeling that, and so then, like, well, if I'm angry, then I'm going to do something. I'm going to become important. Um, And so now I'm able to
Yes.
like recognize that and sometimes go like, okay, well, what's really going on here? And well, does it really matter? You know, and sometimes I still do prefer people to be on time, and depending on what it is, it's like, yeah, if somebody's like late and not going to communicate it, I'm not going to hang out with them again, or I'm not going to do business with them. Like, or, you know,
Totally.
so it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you have the trigger doesn't mean that the behavior that causes the trigger should be acceptable necessarily, but it's like working with like, okay, well, what's a beneficial way to actually deal with something that happened? Because usually a trigger causes something that disrupts our life, makes it harder, or harms ourselves or others. I think maybe that's often, so I would say, I don't know if that resonates with you.
It totally does. Yeah, no, I totally hear you. I like how you phrased it. The anger covers up the loneliness. I think that was essentially like that was one snippet of what you said there was like the behavior of being triggered kind of has a role in a way to help cover up the trauma or the trigger or yeah.
Yeah, it's like getting to an ouchy spot, and then to, I don't deal with that ouchiness. We have a
Yeah,
behavior
that's step
that
three.
we,
Yes, yes, yes,
yeah,
yes, yeah, yeah. To
yeah,
deal with the
and
ouchie, that's step three, and sort of how I understand this. But yeah, you're right. The behavior is how we deal with the ouchie. You know,
yeah. And so how
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
now we've got triggers, and how does a trailhead, so they're similar.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Like, yeah.
so in that
Um,
context, like,
mhm.
uh yeah, what's is it just a little bit of like, this is an event has occurred, and you're at a place where you could go down the path of the behavior, or there's
Yeah, I
it's
hear you. Um, how it is the trailhead is is this word that the image of multiple or curiosity one way or the other way. There's potential, there's
mm-hmm,
there's 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 some sort of maybe an adventure.
mm-hmm,
And
an experience to be had.
yeah, and I think the map of IFS and sort of this framework, it's mindfulness, very similar to mindfulness, but we begin to explore the quote unquote different parts, and we'll say protector parts. um, yeah,
Yeah.
the protector parts that um, sort of are right underneath the surface, the iceberg
Mm-hmm.
image where we have the tip of the iceberg, and right underneath the surface are the parts. So a trigger is these moments, let's say a binge, something triggered, something something happened, and a variety of protectors, these problematic behaviors can come out. Numbing, where you numb with food, maybe an inner critic comes out,
Mm-hmm.
fight or flight, anger.
Yep.
And so if we can somehow start that inward looking, that inward trying to really study, understand. And this is so difficult to do without support from someone who can lend you a compassionate presence and help you sift through these things. I do think that is the value of therapy or coaching, because
Mm-hmm.
it can be a tangled ball of knots. But with a compassionate presence, um, you step two is learning that there's multiple parts underneath every trigger. These are protectionary parts. And what they do is if we can sort of connect with the parts, this sounds really weird, but you end up talking to your internal family. Each part is a little family member, like a little person, an angry Justin, a Justin that disassociates when he, whatever, an inner critic of Justin. And these are all like little people in us that we learn to talk to, befriend, trust. And that's step two. So yeah, that's a lot. And then I'll just quickly say step three is where once the protectors are united, there's more self energy. Self energy is sort of the spirit, soul. In Hinduism, they call it the self. Buddhism, sort of this meta awareness. Once there's that energy connected with the protectors, we're possible to witness the pain, the lonely, the child that was hurt, the child that was rejected, the child that was not important. We can witness their pain and see their pain, and that's how you heal trauma. Bit by bit, you do this. You witness a little bit of pain, so you can integrate it. You can retrieve the soul juice that, like, trauma takes away your life force. There's life force in that, and when we can do it this way, retrieving a little bit of that lost self that was lost in the trauma, that's how we, the protectors that are trying to protect the trauma, they genuinely sense that this little one is safe. They don't need to binge eat as much. They don't need to be as critical as much. They don't need to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if there's a few layers here, and I'll just end it at that, and you can take it wherever you want to go.
Yeah. So maybe quickly, maybe just summarize like the three steps.
Yeah.
I know we took some, and then maybe we'll I'll have some.
We could try to do stories or examples. I try to make it. I don't know. However, we can bring it to life.
The three bullets of this.
Yeah, nutrition, triggers, protectors, mindfulness. That's step 2, and then heal, witness, trauma, pain. Step 3.
Yeah, and I think because it is like a journey, and so to have that laid out, because I'm sure for you to get to this point, to simplify it into those 3, most stuff in life is
a journey, dude. It's been a journey to be able to concise it that way.
Yeah. So that's always the benefit of, learning from someone that's been there, is like, you don't necessarily have to go, you don't need to go spend 13 months at the Zen monastery. You don't have to yoga teach, you can just, if this is what's going on, let's go through it. Like, it's simple. It's going to take effort and discipline and some time, yet it's going to take way less time and be way less painful than trying to just go float around and whatever. And what's really cool is, because your end is pretty much the end of probably, every process, is that usually it's that you're the one that can make the change and work with things, and you don't have to, it's so much easier to work with somebody, but yet the real change is coming from within. And it's like that being responsible, which a lot of people sometimes confuse with like, oh, it's my fault. And it's like, no, it's not that what's going on in your life is your fault. It's that you're able to respond in a way to like heal, change, make it better. Like, it's like things happened in the past. That shit happened. Like that wasn't your fault. But like when we're adults, it's on us to figure out like, well, okay, how do I work with that? It's my life, because I've even had like, experience with like one of my parents where they said the exact same thing that, I always wanted them to say. And it's like, well, that didn't actually fix anything. Because it's like the internal process that needs to happen. And it's
like you as an adult had a conversation with your parents.
Yeah. And it was, my mom was like, oh,
a kid.
Yeah. Like I really, I see that was kind of messed up. When the dog died, and I just kind of said, yep, we put the dog down, and I didn't talk to you about it, because she was like, I was just hurting so much. And it was like, and it was like, I didn't magically become happier. It was helpful in some ways, but it wasn't like the magic wand that I think I had in my head. So I still had all of me to work with and learn how to soothe myself and work with the different parts. So maybe
and witnessing if there's, I don't know, on your own time, or the next time you're in a hot tub, or just gotta go on a walk, but somehow getting in a calm state, and kind of, I think you have enough self-awareness with your protectors that they'll try to come out and sort of shove that memory down. But anyways, getting the protectors to step back. But if you're able to go back and really, I think I'm not saying you're caught up on your dog. It sounds like you've done a lot of work on that, but yeah, no, for working with trauma, it's going back to the age, the memory that the thing happened, and with the self, the awareness, the presence, the calm, the love that the therapist can help a client get. The therapist can kind of with their tone of voice and energy, kind of boost the client's self energy up there for them to witness that trauma. But then once the trauma is witnessed with the alignment of the protectors, with the protector's permission, that's very key, working with the protector's permission. But anyways, the trauma can be unburdened, lifted, and more life force can come back. And in that way, sort of the client learns, they start feeling their own life force, and they do, take self-leadership. I think that's the ultimate goal, is the client, their self-energy, their life force becomes the directing agent in their life over time.
Yeah, because in a lot of ways
going
it's
back
about
and healing that, witnessing that pain from the perspective of the 9-year-old. Like, what was that like when you left, a 9-year-old, like losing their dog? Like, damn, that must have sucked. Like, like feeling that pain, and even there's other techniques that's in step 3, but yeah, essentially it's witnessing or feeling the pain. You can do other things like, other
and well, so
visualizations
maybe,
and so
we'll
forth,
just use my I'm trying to remember how old I actually was. I was like first grade or something like that. Using that, my dog being put, well, we could use that as an example for like how these parts kind of like come about and stuff like that. Cause it's like, my natural, and this is almost like I have to kind of like imagine it, because since I wasn't able to like in the moment, but I'd imagine I would have been like really sad and probably confused and wanting guidance and things like that. Yet from my mom's reaction at the time of just like that happened and then moving on, and then probably a protector part comes like, all right, all that stuff, shut that down. That is not gonna help. This woman is fragile. We do not want to cause any problems.
Exactly.
We need to be a quiet, good little boy and shut off any of those things that say like, I want to cry or I want help or what that.
Absolutely.
So knock that shit off.
Yep.
Yeah, so that we can be safe.
Yeah, totally. Yes,
it's like what, 5 or 6. It's like, well, this is the person that buys the food, prepares the food, and gives a place to live. Like if they're gone, like who's left? That angry dude that's here every couple of weeks when he's not working. Like, because my dad was in the military and would be like, at that time in my life, he'd be off for like 2 weeks on a boat somewhere, because he was in the Marine Corps but worked with the Navy. And it's just like there's this dude every 2 weeks, and often would get angry as fuck and stuff. And it's like, oh, we want this mom woman here as long as possible. Like it's,
she's the sense of safety and
totally.
And so then, totally.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too. You're starting, like, this would be us getting to know a protector part. We have an image, we have a story, we have the history. It's interesting too, when people can feel a connector part or a protector at all parts, they have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
Like the voice you were using right there was kind of the voice I imagined of like the 5-year-old, sort of like, but like stern to himself, like, dude, the mom is fragile. You have to contain it. Like, you got to shut down, bro. Like, you said it a little bit differently, but
right, yeah.
But like they call it fleshing out, like where you not just intellectually know, but kind of in your heart, in your body, in your memory, like a part, and you keep on getting to know all these protector parts. Like,
and I think that's the importance of, it's that emotional part, because that's the part.
Yes.
Like, if you could think your way out of all this shit, just about everybody would be so happy. But it's like you it was an emotional thing that happened, so it's got to be an emotional thing that kind of works it. And then also, and I don't know, one thing that I've also been learning is so much of what starts to hurt or become sickness in the body is just stored up emotional junk. Totally. I like to, sometimes I've come up with it, our body is like our cosmic receptionist. It's like, well, you were checked out focusing on other stuff. It was still recording all of the bad emotional things that ever happened to your entire life, just waiting for you to come back and like read all these memos. It's like, why does the lower back hurt? It's like, oh, well, yeah, that was when like you really didn't, speak up when, a girlfriend, cheated on you and you didn't speak up for yourself, like, oh, what's with all that extra body fat? Like, oh, that's, from when you were ignored, as a kid and you weren't able to get the love you need. And so, yeah, like, yeah. And it's like the body's is a record of like all the stuff to be worked on. And when it's seen that way, to me, it's a little bit like, oh, okay, there's a purpose. It's trying to help me. Just, I didn't understand the message. I just thought my body was being a dick and hurting me and doing all these things I didn't like and having all these urges, like fucking urges sometimes. And then it's like, oh, well, you're letting me know you needed something, that I needed something.
One story comes up to mind with the physical symptoms being a part. I think it's totally true. Of course, not all physical symptoms are like this, but sometimes a part is like a spring and it contains all the energy, and it's like a spring that can't release. And I know these parts, they fight each other. The protectors, they fight each other.
There can be different ones.
Yeah, there can be different ones. Yeah,
because like I have a numbing part, but I definitely have an angry part too.
Yeah, and they can fight each other.
It's like, all right, motherfucker, let's go. I'm going to take you out. And
yeah. They can fight each other too. Oftentimes, like a controlling part versus a binge part. Like, bro, I'm going to eat now because okay. Where was I going with this? The embodied, yes. Something about the parts, the symptoms. Yes. There's one woman currently working with, really a lot of anger. Anger is a big protector because it makes her strong and powerful. She can remember, anger giving her a sense of power, and she understands how it helps her stay safe, to protect herself physically. Oftentimes, she has another part of her who tries to contain her anger by making her feel nauseous, because when she's angry, she'll do things that she regrets. She lashes out at people. It leads to a lot of people pushing her away.
Mm-hmm.
Very lonely. So this nausea part of her, she's discovered, sort of steps in to make her so weak, nauseous, like literally when she gets angry, she's furious, but she's also simultaneously like starting to feel nauseous. So she can't really act on her anger. And so it's just an example of how parts can manifest physically, how they can fight each other, and freaking how confusing this shit can be. Like, that's why I love the map of the protectors, the firefighters, and the managers that IFS provides, with the exile in the center of the circle, the exile being the trauma in step 3, and the outer perimeter of the circle being the parts, the protectors, managers, firefighters, etc. So it provides a little bit of a map that really helps people sort of sort through these different layers and parts of the emotions.
See it from a different perspective, a higher level. Because it's one of those, because what I think, I don't know, my experience is like when you're don't have this awareness that it's like you end up it's almost like a method actor. Like they forget that they're playing a part, and you think like, oh, I am this asshole, I am this weak, whatever, meek, whatever. And it's like, no, that's just a role you can play. And when you zoom out and you can see like, oh, these all have good qualities in the right time and place. It's just when they're misused, that's when they cause harm. Because like even binge eating, it's like, if you want to like win at a food eating contest, like that, bring in your binge eating part. Like, fucking A, man, that's going to get you to win. And it's like, there's literally like any quote unquote bad thing, I feel like you can always find like a good of it. You can see the good in the past, and then there's probably likely a time that you go like, oh, I'm glad I have this in my back pocket that I could use it. It might be a weird time like that.
No, totally. I mean,
but it's like, hey, you got the tool, just don't use it unless, okay, it's actually for a purpose that you want.
Yeah, I hear you.
And respecting it, loving the tool. I think that's the going like, hey, you're a good tool. I thank you.
You're
a good part.
Definitely binge eating and any other destructive behavior at one point saved a person's life, and that's very important. Yeah, it's a hugely valuable role. I mean, sometimes kids don't get fed regularly, so the binge part, literally sneaky and get some food. Other times they need comfort, parents aren't there. Um, yeah, and the other part you mentioned was the blending, the you become the depression, you become the anxiety, you become the obsession. That's what they call blending. It's when there's not enough self energy,
Mm-hmm.
a part essentially takes over the system. Um, you know, let's say you get triggered. So let's say an exile, a trauma, something about you that holds the inner pain. It gets triggered. You get rejected. You get whatever, long day at work and just depleted of energy and famished. All these can be triggers for that hit the underlying pain. A protector comes out and it starts trying to freaking cover it up, and um, then the part is the one controlling the system. It's the one in the driver's seat, right? That the binge is now in control. Um, so a big goal of this whole thing is to, when you start to study these parts, is that they start to unblend, and as they unblend, the person becomes more of their true self, which I think is the coolest thing, and why I love IFS is because to me it totally parallels all religions. I feel like all religions point exactly to this place of calmness or compassion,
Mm-hmm.
presence. Like when the parts step back, there's more of that. There's more of that that comes forth, and you can feel it in your body. It feels a sense of presence. It feels joyful,
Yeah.
and that
Joyful,
self
calm,
energy. Yeah,
ease.
people discover that within themselves as they sort of um, reclaim their
They're all of
authorship.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, all of them. Yeah, the parts, they,
Yeah.
instead
And
of
it,
fighting each other, the energy is accessible to be used. It's not that the binge part goes away. The binge part is your best part at taking care of your comfort and warmth, and helping you soothe. That part of soothing, comfort, and warmth is still valid. It just gets transformed when the trauma, when the binge part can see the trauma is being healed, and it doesn't need to do it anymore.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
becomes easier to consciously do something else that is probably soothing, uplifting in a more beneficial way.
Yeah, and the binge part really has to see the inner kid being healed. It has to stand on your
Yeah.
shoulder and see the inner kid being healed, and that way it will truly feel the sense of safety it needs to actually stop binging.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's
that's
like,
important. We're not telling it to stop. We're not
yeah.
we're not we're not telling it to stop. Yeah, it's a little different.
Because like
Yeah.
I'll circle, because going back when you were a wrestler and it sounds like you're practically like binging on grapes, because it's like, well, these are okay, I should still be able to make weight. And I'm guessing you probably ate what many would consider a ridiculous amount of grapes.
Yeah. I remember like
um
like, dude, I'm freaking so sick of these
Yet
grapes.
there's you can do it where you can binge on a grape, on the experience of every, of just like the anticipation, like the pulling the grape off of the stem, and then the feeling in your fingers, like a very mindful, and then just like putting it in and like feeling it like against your teeth, and then just that first bite and the juice squirt, like there can be a way where you can be just getting so much from a little thing in life. um
Yeah, certainly people can learn to enjoy food mindfully, even cheeseburgers, cakes, etc. Um, Definitely that's possible. I Yeah,
yeah, and
if someone if
I've
someone
done
for
it,
some
but
if
I don't
someone
do it often.
if it's somehow associated with trauma, like if
Oh yeah, then it's going to be.
basically you can't force that to
Oh
happen,
yeah.
in my opinion. Or if you can sort of, yeah, anyways. Yeah, I do think that healing, sometimes there's a tendency for people, and this is fine too. I mean, not everyone, you're right. You're absolutely right, Justin. Yeah, people can
Well,
learn to like
I'm
mindfully
going with
eat and
once the
switch
trauma
their,
is, then that part can find like other ways to
yeah, it becomes
possibly.
it unfreezes it. Yeah, because right, so
Yeah,
because like these
because I wouldn't
kids.
tell someone that's been like binge eating to,
Yes,
what, well,
exactly.
why don't you just really enjoy a grape? I'm like, no, no, no. It's like,
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah,
it
exactly.
would be like after the 3-step process, it's like, hey, well, let's try eating a grape this way and see how
Yeah,
that how that
it's like
ran.
the binge part is like this kid in a dark room who doesn't know anything. And as you learn and relate to the kid that binges more, he can grow up and see the world for it is. You kind of have to hold his hand. But then in a way, it'll be very authentic when he finally says, oh, like I'm gonna enjoy this grape. It's coming from a much different place instead of like, oh, why don't you just and you know what I'm saying. So yeah, thanks for that little distinction. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I think, well, I kind of want to get to wrapping up because I know we've been
Sure.
talking for a long time. It's been really, and there might be some people going like, you guys really didn't talk about food or eating all that much. And it's because like for the most part, the issues with eating are not issues with eating. They're issues with
Yeah.
trauma or other unresolved stuff. I'd say I think there's two parts to people's eating challenges. One, there's ignorance of
Mm.
of how to eat, what to
Yeah.
eat, that
Yeah.
which is I think a huge problem, especially in the U.S. especially, where the misinformation of what is healthy, it's like, oh, I'll have a Caesar salad, that's healthy, and it's like, but the Caesar dressing is loaded with like sugar, fat, and then the salad has like no actual nutrient. It's just like, it's like a sugar fat ball with no nutrient. But people might think like, oh, I'm eating healthy, and it's like,
And let me
it's
just add too that
yeah,
you're right. You're absolutely right. And the amount of food anxiety, the amount of the weight loss industry is a multi $70 billion industry. I think that's not including food programs. And people are confused too. Like they've had so many different diets, so many different ways of eating. They have a freaking master's degree in nutrition, but because there's so much information, they have a hard time processing and making decisions. So yeah, that's another side of the coin. But yeah, no,
yeah,
the
I
nutrition, getting
could
the
get
basic.
into how many nutritionists
Yeah.
well, it's only like been like two that I met with, and I end up educating them about nutrition because they went to the Kellogg's cereal school of nutrition, which is actually closer to true than untrue, but it's heart
Sure.
healthy grains, and you want to have
Sure.
your
Yeah.
3 meals and 3 snacks, and
Yeah.
then
I mean,
after they get out of school, they start to
that's pretty standard. Yeah. But yeah.
yeah, standard American diet. Sad. Yeah. Um, so I think but what I found is, there's a point where it's like, well, okay, I know what to do. How come why am I not able to do it? That's when all this emotional work and working with
That's
trauma and
and that's a
that's the,
protector part. That is a protector part,
yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to keep you safe
And
and
so,
really getting to know the history of that part. And yeah.
like, I mean, that's your step one and your step two. And the step three is, I'm guessing, like bringing it all together in a
Yeah,
lot of
step
ways.
three is the protectors, like that lazy part that says, oh, I can't do it. Like once these protectors, they step back, they literally step back and give you more space. They allow you to witness the inner child. They allow you to literally feel the pain that the child went through, literally feel the pain that is in the body. This is fundamentally, by the way, a biological release. The pain is stored in the body, right? It's stored in the
Mm-hmm.
memories and history and cellular history of the traumatic event.
Yep.
And when we go into the story and the memory and the recollection of that traumatic event, we can witness it from the present moment, heal the pain, release it, and the burdensome beliefs that come along with it, like I'm worthless and so forth. So that's step three. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In
And
a nutshell. Yeah.
on one part, it's like, oh, that sounds like so much
It
work. Like,
does. It is a lot. I
but
know.
then the other thing is, it's like,
But this is how
you
you
can
do
do
it.
it. You can
This
do
is how
it,
you do
and
it.
it's worth
Yeah.
it.
It is worth it.
And your body is like going like, yeah, I get you can't handle this now, but you're going to be able to handle it at some point. This is going
Yeah.
to be your growth. This is going to be,
This
it's
is,
going to be good for you. This is
this
your
is,
vegetables.
yeah, this is, this is your medicine. If, yeah,
And
yeah,
once you start
this
taking
is
the
not a,
medicine, you start to enjoy it. I don't know about you, but there's a
yeah. It
lot of
takes a
stuff
little,
now where I'm like,
it
it's
takes
like,
a few months to, I say it takes a couple months. It's uncomfortable. It's weird in the beginning. And yeah, but no, you're
yeah.
right.
But then it's always, what's the alternative?
I
Just
know.
you know, the best case is the same misery, pain, that you've been living, but usually this shit just gets worse.
Yeah. And that's why I want to thank you too, by the way, Justin, for allowing, or just kind of asking questions about these 3 steps, because so many people, it's not like they're not trying. They've actually tried hundreds of times before and they just failed every time, or it feels like that. And I hope people can see the little difference in the model, how this is working with trauma to release the protectors. It's a different approach, and learning the theory of it, I hope can give people like a little sort of like that buoy, that life vest, that
Yeah.
they can go through these dark waters. And there's a reason the waters are dark. It's the protectors fighting each other who are,
Yeah.
and there's a way to the other side. And
One
yeah,
to me, I think the biggest thing is like you don't have to necessarily travel those waters completely alone. You can have
you
either
don't.
somebody who's been there before, or on your side, or right behind you, going, "You got this." And if you're looking for that, I'd highly recommend connecting with Jared, looking up his coaching, eatingenlightenment.com. He's also got a YouTube channel with some great videos and things like that. So that'll all be in the show notes. So look up, Jared Levinson, eatingenlightenment.com. So you can find out about, his programs, connect with him. And so yeah, today is probably just a taste to get your intellect, but really this you got to like go through it. It's got to be experienced, and the relief, the freedom, like, yeah, like you're a much calmer, more relaxed guy than 9 years ago when we first met. And we met at yoga teacher training after he had been going 13 months at his end. So
I know, right? Dude, I've come a long ways. I really have. So yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. And yeah, thanks for the conversation.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Take care, and good day.